Hello, this is part 2 of how to set up an Illustrator file to produce a house plan or a canteen plan or a gym plan at 1 to 100 scale within Adobe Illustrator. So last clip I showed you some quick things on how to actually set the file up. You have a grid here. Every major grid line is 10 millimeters, and every small grid line you see here is 1 millimeter. If I draw a line using the marquee tool, if I draw a line like a shape, it snaps to these 1 millimeter increments. It's very important to have set up. So if you want to know how to do that, that information is on part 1. Okay? So that's our wall there. What I'm going to show you now is actually how to really get this happening. Okay? So I'm going to create a new file. In fact, what I'll do is I'll continue on from what we did originally. So this is a PC version of Illustrator. The Mac version is identical, apart from a few other small little tiny things, such as shortcut keys. So I'm just going to delete this. And I'm going to bring up my layers palette. So if you can't see your layers palette, go to Window and then go to Layers. And the shortcut key for that is F7. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to title the first layer and I'm going to call it Image. I create another layer which is called Plan. Okay? Yeah? What we'll do is we'll go back to the image layer and we're going to go up to File, Place, and we're going to find our scanned in plan that we did in the graph paper, for example. Where is it? Plan on graph paper. Here it is. Alright, so all you've got to do is just click once, and that is the plan on the graph paper itself. So you notice that this paper itself is A3 size, and I'm just going to move it across so it matches up against this A3 document here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to rotate this. You see here the grab handles. If I move my mouse up, being in the Move tool, the selection tool, if I bring the mouse over here, I can rotate it around. If I press Shift at the same time, it's going to lock it into 45-degree increments. Any questions with that? No? If you're a bit confused right now, you need to go to part 1. Alright, to start from scratch. Or also look at Introduction to Adobe Illustrator. How to trace the proper way. So, I'm pressing the space bar and I'm going to my hand tool so I can move around. If I press the Z button, I can go into the zoom tool. We now click right closer. I'm going to zoom right in. Okay. One thing we're going to do now is I'm going to have this image here still selected, and I'm going to make this image slightly transparent. So what we'll do now is we'll go to Window and we go to, where are we? Transparency. Right, and we'll make this transparency, set it to 25%. And what this is doing now is that I can actually see through to the proper grid in Adobe Illustrator. Okay, if I reduce it down a little bit more, so I can just see the outline of my building, I'm going to, can you all see this on the projector? Just? Yeah? Let's increase it by 5, just so you can just see it. What I'll do now is I'll go to any corner of my plan, and I'm just going to drag it up so that it matches up against the grid. I can use the arrow keys on the keyboard to just ever so slightly modify it. You see here how now these line up, roughly, according to the grid in Illustrator that's set up. we'll go back to our layers palette and we'll set this layer so you can't edit this anymore. So now I can't select the image at all. Is that okay? Next step is you go to the plan layer and you go to the marquee tool, which is also called rectangle tool. Originally it was called marquee tool. And then you go over to our color palette and we click on default. We flip it using this button here, swap. We click on the white stroke and we make this as none. Now's the time to rewind if you're not too sure. And once you do that, because we are going to just merely trace it, we can just trace our house or building, and using the same method as before, we go to the transform tool. The width is 3mm and the height of this one is 38mm. And all we've got to do is we just need to continue on making sure that the height here is 3mm, which is an external wall, and we just fill in the entire, trace around the entire structure. An easy way of doing this is doing it this way. An even easier way is, what you do is you use the pen tool, click on the pen tool, and you start off over here, and using the snap to grid to your full benefit. If we move up, it snaps to the vertical. Click here, click. What we need to do is we need to make this fill as a stroke. So now it's just like that. And what we do is we'll just trace each individual edge. Making sure that I have things vertical when it needs to be. In fact, I'll just make this short here. So I'm just pressing the space bar to go to the move tool. As soon as I take my hand off the space bar, it goes into the pen tool again. So go right around the whole building itself. If you're not too sure if you got something that's perfectly horizontal, you press shift and it snaps to the vertical. Click. If I want to snap it to, I press shift as I'm going, and it does it exactly vertical as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is that in this instance of this building here, this building continues on for a larger structure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this off as if this was the main structure here. Is that okay? So we'll just zoom straight in again, and we go back to the pen tool, add to this drawing here, and we finish it off. You notice here, if I zoom out, right, this entire thing has been filled in. This entire thing is now one big shape. Okay. Ideally, just to be nice and accurate, I should actually go to this tool here, which is the tool that can select each individual node of this shape. See here how if I just click on this stroke, I can now click on a node and modify the node individually. That's what that tool there is for. Okay, and it's called the direct selection tool. Shortcut key for that is A. Have a look at this one. Now if I select the whole shape now, and then I go to Window, I now go to, where are we? Where's stroke? Stroke. And this stroke here, at the moment, the weight is 1 point. So now if I type in here from 1 point, I type in 3 millimeters and press enter, it's now actually the 3 millimeters external wall, but I need to adjust it so align stroke to outside. Align stroke to outside. Now if I zoom in to here, for example, I notice that my stroke is actually 3 millimeters high. You see here how that's a 3 millimeter cube, and let's say if we go to transform, you can see width is 3 mil and height is 3 mil. So instantly, without stuffing around too much, I've actually done the entire outside of my canteen space. And then I come back in, I zoom straight in, and I do an internal wall here, for example. So I zoom right in, and I go to the marquee tool or the rectangle tool, and I make a 1 millimeter thick shape here. I zoom out, and I've got my internal wall right here. So I continue doing this the entire way around. Okay, I can keep on adding to it. External walls at 1 to 100 scale is 3 millimeters, internal walls are 1 millimeter. Now let's say I want to put furniture in. I go open up my floor plan cheat sheet that I've given you, and let's say, for example, I put in a bench and sink. So I select it, and I copy, and then I paste it into our kitchen space right here. Now, because this is snapping to, it's going to be very easy to bring this in, and that is my sink right there for the kitchen space. And I'll continue doing that. Another thing we have in the cheat sheet is patterns as well. So what I've got here is I've got grass. So let's say I want like a grass area in the canteen itself. Yeah, weird, I know, but sometimes you can actually have garden spaces within a building itself. So I've prepared textures here for you. So let's put in right now, for example, we've got grass, we have concrete. Let's put in some decking. So I click on the deck, and I press Command C, and I come back to my demo here, to my demo canteen, and I press Command V or Control V to paste it in. I'm just going to move it across here for the time being. Have a look at this one. Now if I open up swatches, now forgive me, I'm on a small screen right now, so it's very hard to see these things. So this is the swatches here, palette right here. If I drag this item into my swatches, yeah, have a look at this. I draw just a marquee, and now I click on pattern. I've just filled this entire space with my decking. With the decking. As simple as that. Zoom in, and that's my decking right here for my canteen. So you don't have to copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. It is just there as a pattern. So if I turn off my image here, and we can actually see, and turn off the grid, you can actually see here we've actually got the decking in there. Are there any questions at this stage in time? I can add windows to this space. Go to my cheat sheet, press V to go to that selection tool, click on the window, press Control C or Command C on the Mac. I go back to my demo and I zoom in to, let's say, here, right into my decking space, and I press Control V or Command V. I go to my selection tool and I move this window across. I can rotate it by just moving up here, click and then rotate it, and then press Shift to lock it to 90 degrees, and then I move it across here like this. Deselect it, zoom out, and I've got my window right there. I can continue doing this with all the other things, such as we can have external walls, external doors, internal doors, swinging doors, sliding doors, all these type of things here. You can add all these other bits of furniture as well. Are there any questions? No? Okay, thank you. That'll be all.